I want to show you that the agenda for today. Can you see the agenda, people? Yeah. Okay. So this is the agenda. We're gonna make one part of the agenda, more theoretic part, and after that we are gonna to do two practical cases to understand or to learn about how can we introduce gender perspective in the different processes, especially in our organization and also in youth volunteers. But after the beginning, we are gonna to do a brief brainstorming about gender. So maybe we can say one word about what is gender for you, what is equality for you, and if you are implementing action to improve gender equality in the organization, maybe it could be better. So let's go to do brief brainstorming. Yeah, let's.
So, like the volunteers to break the ice.
How do you want us to brainstorm? Like all speaking, or write it down on the chat, or what?
Just one word about what is for you gender, or
Speaking.
what's for you equality. It's just to a little bit brainstorming. Yeah.
Okay.
For me, one word is access, I would say. Access and opportunities.
Yeah.
Just to break the ice.
For me, it's equality.
It's, sorry, fight?
Equality.
Equality, okay.
For me, it's like if you think anything the other way around, like the guy is the main character in the, I don't know, in the situation, doesn't sound weird, you know. I don't know if I explain well.
Yeah.
Okay.
More words, more impressions.
More things, more feelings.
David, yeah?
For me, it's equal opportunities for everybody. Equality.
Or maybe if you implement some action to improve equality in the organization.
Sorry, can you repeat?
Sorry?
Can you repeat?
Yeah, or if you have some action to improve gender equality in the organization. Not
Yeah.
you, so it's like a general question. So
In our organization, it's mainly women. So there is no equality. But it depends what you find the people that are fit to do the job. Sometimes you cannot look inequality and decide whether to employ a man or a woman. Sort of, you have to see who is good to do the job, who is fit to do the job.
So, for example, do you think, this question is for all, but do you think, for example, if in an organization we have, for example, 90% are women and 10% are male, for you is an inequality issues, or maybe it's equality? So, because this is a problem in NGOs, no? Or problem, I don't know if it's a problem, but this is the first question to debate or discuss.
For example, referring to politics locally here in Malta, we have politicians now pushing to have more women into politics. Even we have the opposition party that is engaging in key positions, women. For example, the Secretary General is a woman. The head of finance is a woman. When it comes also to committees, they are giving women priorities. But I see it from a different perspective. You have to see who is good and who fits the job. I don't think you should consider gender as such. If a woman is good to do the job, you give her that position. If a man is good to do the job, you give him that position. But in our organization, like you said, it's around about 90% females, 10% males. It doesn't bother me.
More opinions about that? More.
Okay, from experience. So if you are providing some help, you need to be aware about gender, because sometimes there is a lot of issues about it's female or male. So you need to be aware it's a male or female volunteer who provide the help.
Thank you.
For me, describe gender, one word is transformation. Because I think that it's very important to know the inequalities, and it's important for the organization that we are working to in development process or in volunteers, transform the inequalities. And if we don't transform the gender inequalities, it's very difficult to change the world or to improve the world.
Thank you.
Super. In the meantime, I'm happy to say that Maria just joined us here. So maybe if you could also introduce yourself. Maria is joining us from Alianza, right? And yeah.
Yes, sorry, because I was late. My name is Maria, and yes, I am working in Alianza. I'm gender advisor here in Madrid. And I'm here to support or to share with all of yours this space, and it's a pleasure to know everybody.
Super, thank you.
Okay, more questions about that, or we can continue? Okay, we can continue. Yeah, so okay, you have general objective. As the general objective today is provide you information and some recommendations to introduce gender perspective in volunteer management processes. And the specific objective is, okay, of course, learn about gender in humanitarian volunteers and provide some tools for the inclusion of equality and youth volunteers. I want to say to you that in the guide you will more information. So for us, it's very important now not only to read this PowerPoint, but also share our experience, share our some questions, because we need to discuss, to debate about some issues about gender, or how can we implement gender in humanitarian processes, and specifically in your different organizations. So yes, I think we need to try share this kind of issues. So what is important gender in our organization? So for us, the incorporation of gender perspective is not only a necessary working tool, but also a view to be implemented in all policies in order to develop society based on equal opportunity. So you have different examples with different dimensions: technical knowledge, organizational identity. So what do you think it's important, for example, including gender perspective in your organization in terms of identity, or maybe in technical knowledge or professional skills? What do you think it's important to include in these 5 areas. I'm gonna give you, for example, an example. In professional skills, maybe it's different if you are training in terms of gender, because if you know some things about gender and how can you implement gender in the old processes, maybe your organization can improve equality not only in your organization but also in the host country, no? So it's different that if in your team there are people know gender issues, that if you are team that don't know nothing about gender, no? So for us it's very important to improve people in this question, no? In terms of the gender. And it's very important, for example, that in our organization we need to learn about gender, not only in one course, like for example in this webinar. So for us it's very important, maybe has a training each month, no? So this is an example, but what is for you, why is important for you in these different levels or areas? It's because you're tired, or
Alejandro, Alejandro is asking for word. No, you just unmute your micro and go ahead.
No, thank you very much. I really like this topic. I think it's very important, not only for organizations working in the humanitarian field, like generally speaking. I think this is a matter of respect. So if we take the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, that all human beings are born equal in rights, that means that we need to comply with that. This is like a policy for humans. So and it's more important, even more important, working in the humanitarian field, because you are sending this message, like, okay, we are doing that, and for us, we are open. So the gender perspective is always welcome, and at the same time, you are like a model, like showing the others that it's possible. It's possible to reach this equality. That's my opinion. And if we take these five areas, so we can integrate the work we do every day.
Thank you, Alejandro. More opinions about that? For example, what do you think about the repercussions if you don't implement gender issues in these areas, or technical knowledge, for example, or professional skills? What do you think about the repercussion if you don't include gender perspective in these examples? Come on, people!
For me, for example, when I do when I talk to volunteers, being able to teach them how to cut some situations that they may found in their volunteers, you know, that they are not like so bad, but maybe some joke between the kids or some type of things that are very, very like subtle. I don't know how to say it in English. And maybe if you don't say them, or you don't give them some tools to deal with that, you know, in their volunteer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true. Okay.
And for example, in the field, if technical knowledge is important. For example, if we need to identify a project or a problem in a humanitarian situation, for example, what kind of tools do you now to identify different gender situations or different problems between women and men? Do you now any tools to identify different needs or different situations that affect differently women and men?
I see Balint and unmute his micro. He was ready to contribute.
Okay.
But there was a question. So.
Yeah.
The question is, do you know some tools or mechanisms to identify what kind of situation or what kind of affected situation to differently to women or men in humanitarian crisis or in humanitarian process? In your organization, do you have any tools to this kind of work? For example, if you in Haiti with the earthquake, okay, we are working in Haiti, and I need to identify what kind of intervention I have to do with my volunteers. And I start speaking with the community, but what kind of, do you know what kind of action that are necessary to now the different situation of women and men in this problem or in this crisis? Hello. An example could be, okay, we need to, okay, it's important to know the context, no? And when we speak, okay, we start and we speak with the community, but with what groups of the community are important to identify the problems? What groups?
Not everybody at the same time.
No. When in your organization you are design a project? What is the process that you use to identify or to design a project in different situations, not in humanitarian? What steps do you use to identify the project?
Did you including gender perspective in your project?
For those who have those projects in third countries, I don't know how is it going with the Baptist aid, Croatian Baptist aid, or maybe what is the practice in Foundation for Africa? Do you have some specific tools? Do you have some yeah, like as the question was saying, you know, like to differentiate maybe the needs of female or male volunteers, or in general, like, do you want to share some practice?
Okay, I will say something, maybe not answering everything, but try to contribute. Well, for me, I think gender is one of the most important thing in sending volunteers to let's call it third world countries. So and it's very important to prepare volunteers to the situation, for example, European volunteers going to Africa will meet a totally different world in terms of gender. In terms of man and women situation, so it's a very important thing to get them prepared to this. What we do is, but the question that was raised, it's a question also for us, because it's something that we need to develop, I think. is just to mainstream this question during the preparation. So we tell them how is the situation regarding gender in Congo, for example, when we send them how to behave differently as a woman, for example, in a situation, how to dress, how to how to behave with men. So we try to explain and get them prepared. But we do need to have some good tools, good things to know about it. And also there's another factor of gender is sending volunteers. So for example, if we send 5 volunteers one time, it's important that the gender of these 5 volunteers is also important. It makes a difference if it's 5 men or it's 5 women at the same time, or how to yes, to deal with these questions. So this is, I think, a very important question, but we have more questions than answers to this.
Thank you.
David, also from Malta, raised the hand to...
Yes, from past experience, we had a mission in Albania, and Albania, just after that the Pirate scheme fell and there were the riots in the country, it was not easy to see a female driving a car. And my colleague and myself used to go around, and she used to drive the Land Rover. And for them, even when we used to be stopped by soldiers and policemen, to see a woman driving, for them it was something out of this world. Even in Africa, in Uganda, we go every year up to Uganda, and it's not in the capital city, in Kampala, but in the villages, in the remote areas, it's not common to see a female driving. And for example, when they see my colleague driving the car, for them it is something out of this world, and they just stare at us. So it depends a lot on the culture of the country that you are visiting. You have to do a lot of work, groundwork, before sending volunteers to see exactly the impact. I recall also in Kosovo, I just went in after that the Serbs left and the United Nations took over, and because of the religion, they were Muslims, they would not accept a male doctor to see female patients. So we had the clinics, and we used to face problems if we didn't find matching gender to the type of patient that we will be receiving. So they would not accept a male gynecologist to see pregnant women. So we had to employ local female doctors to visit the patients.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, David. Thank you for your experience, for sharing your experience. We can continue. So this is a diagnosis of the gender situation in organization and volunteers. This is a conclusion start for the questionnaire that I sent some of you the last 2 months. Yes, the last 2 months. But I want sorry. Yes, the diagnosis was structured based on 3 levels, corporate organizational levels. This is the first level. The objective was all issues related with gender policies and their function. So, for example, the first question that I sent you was, does your organization have a gender policy, a specific policy? So all of people say, 86% say no, they haven't a gender specific policy. So this is important to reflect, because why the organization have not a gender specific policy, no? Or it's important, or maybe not need include this kind of policies. The other question is that, do you prioritize gender equality in your organization? So 71% say yes, prioritize gender equality in the organization. The other question was, do you think that your gender policies is adapted to the field you're working in? 86% say again yes. And in terms of the technical level, to how know your work on gender issues in terms of, for example, projects, the question was, is there technical training for a gender perspective? 86% say no, there aren't technical training for a gender perspective. So it's if we have a gender specific policy, maybe we can have a training for a gender specific for a gender perspective, sorry. And the other question was, do you have requirement or gender criteria in all different processes like selection, identification, implementation? 86% say no, there aren't requirements of gender criteria to include this kind of the different processes of selection or identification or more. Okay, some question more. For example, do you need to create a gender action plan? 71% say yes. So maybe we can try to reflect that if we need to create a new action plan, for example, and gender policies, because maybe it's good for our organization or maybe not, we can discuss about that in the case after. And for example, another question, does your organization work with organizations that support women in the field? So 86% say yes, maybe it's a good action that you do in your organization. But the last level was in terms of the volunteer in the field mission, and if they take some action to implement gender issues in the mission. And some question was, do you have volunteer space created to assess and analyze gender impact and identify needs after field work? 86% say no, they aren't create a space to identify needs or to do a feedback, for example, in terms of gender perspective. And the other question was, does your organization have tools and expert staff to give gender support to volunteers? So 86% say no, there aren't tools and expert in this term. So this is, I think it's important issues that we need to reflect about that, no? What do you think? Do you think that how do you feel about these results? Do you feel identified? Does it reflect the situation in your NGOs, or maybe not? Because this is a small approximation from a questionnaire, but I don't know if you think that maybe it's true or maybe not. Hello?
Is there something that surprised you actually, or is it basically in the line? So there is a lot of need in our organizations to train and to build capacities within both volunteer management processes and also organizational level. How do you feel about it? How is it?
And for example, if you think that maybe could be interesting to create action plan or to create a gender policies maybe could be a good action to implement or improve our organization in terms of gender issues, or maybe not, it's important. Because this was a debate at the last 2 webinars. So.
Hello, everyone. Hello. I'm surprised with the most organization don't have a gender plan. I thought most organization have it, but not implementing that. Okay. I think most organizations have a plan, a gender plan in the paper, but it's not frequently put in practice.
Yeah.
In our case, in my organization, we have one. We have a gender plan, but in fact, we don't put in practice. So. I don't know how is the how is the way to probably we don't have enough workers training in a gender file or I don't know. For us, it's difficult to implement gender action in the file. Because in our organization, in the host organization, we don't do it anything about gender issues. But in fact, we have a plan, a gender plan. So I don't know.
What do you think about that? Because I think it's important. It's important issues. Maybe we need to create a specific plan, depend of the projects. I don't know. Depend of the missions, depend of the, I don't know, but it's important we need to reflect about that.
In my case, I think it's really important to incorporate gender approach in all the projects. In fact, we incorporate in the paper in the project when I write the project, but I don't know if we implement in I don't know. I don't know if it's only in my case, in my organization, or it's common in general.
Do you think that this kind of result, because it's very
sorry,
it's very sorry, the result of the questionnaire, it's very it's very visible that okay, it's important gender, but we don't have a plan, we don't have training, we don't implement the plan, and for me it's worried the result of the questionnaire. Maybe what do you think, all the viewers, what do you think in your organization? It's really an important issue. Really, it's in the organizational culture or in our policy, because if we have this result, I think that gender is not a priority. What do you think?
You mean in my case or in general?
No, in
general.
Okay. Okay. In my case, in my organization, I think is not a main policy, but it's my opinion. I think it's important when gender issues affect to security or safety of women in the file. If we have some problem in security, the organization put the attention in that case. I don't know if I I don't know if do you understand me?
Yeah.
When we have some problem in security or safety in the file, we put the attention in gender issues.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because are women in most
Affected, no?
case.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Anyone wants to share how is it in their organization? Is it in the agenda actually, like what Maria was mentioning? No, is it like is it included as a priority, or is it maybe not priority, but is it in the agenda of the organization? Anyone?
Okay.
For us,
Rocio?
for example, it's not a priority, and actually we don't have the tools, you know, or even the capacity to deal with it, like with the how, for example, I will like to do it, and the board of the entity, I don't know if they're like kind of old maybe, and this issue they don't see it so clearly, you know, because you have sometimes they think like you have mainly women in volunteer, like most part of volunteers are women, what else do you want, you know? That's great like that. And it's like you know, and this thinking also that if women aren't in some positions, for example, it's because the nature or the society doesn't have to be like that, you know, that there is no thing that avoid them to be in some positions. So if they are not there, it's because it doesn't have to be like that, you know. And I'm not agree, but
Yeah.
I hear those things. So, but mainly, I think those thoughts are in the entity, in some parts of the board, maybe. But it's really important to count with the tools and with money, you know, and with people to do that.
And do your organization have a specific budget or resources to this kind of thing, or
no, not at all. No.
Okay, it's important because if we have a plan, we need to implement the plan, and we need resources, or we need a budget, a specific budget. And sometimes in our projects or in our organization, we speak about gender and it's important, but we don't plan a specific budget or specific activities to implement, and it is very difficult because
yeah, sure, I agree.
it depends of the volunteer, of the chief or of the director, and it's very difficult, no? In this case, I know that it's a problem in NGOs in general, because we try to do a lot of things, but in the case of Cayetana was working, okay, we have a plan, but we don't implement. But it is a priority, because if you have for example, if you have a plan of human rights, do you implement this kind of plan? It's the same priority with different issues, or depends of the issue. gender is in the same have
Same level, no?
the same level,
right.
or what do you think about this?
For like personally, for me, it's in the same level. You know, it's like human right, like gender is in human rights defense. But I don't know if the human rights approach is like in the roots of our entity, you know, because like human rights approach like theoretical, you know, not like we don't fight or we don't have it in our vision and our mission, but like so like in the theory, I don't know if we have it, you know.
Okay.
Thank you for all of you. So I think that we have a big problem because we have a little and big problem because yes, all people know that what is gender, and all people know that the importance of gender, no. But the problem is why we can implement gender issues in the project, no. So maybe in the practical cases we can try to think about that, because okay, you have tools, you have guys. Now you will have this guide. So from volunteers. So we need to debate not about actions, because I think you know that the actions, and I think you know that the importance of gender perspective. But also we need to think about which is the barriers, no, and limits that can't implement gender perspective in organization, in volunteer, in technical team, no. So this is a question for the practical cases, and I think it's very important to debate about that. Okay, we can continue. Sorry, yeah. We're gonna let's see a video about the project from Gender in Humanitarian Action, and this project is very interesting because they implement some action from equality, and after we can debate about that. Mm-hmm.
Now, the reason that we had to gear up this huge operation is because we had 2 harvests that failed back to back. At the same time, you had this sharp rise in intertribal conflict, and that meant that 400,000 people were displaced from their homes. You added all those 3 factors together, and we ended up with a humanitarian crisis.
When you're providing humanitarian aid, gender actually means that you're not missing out on either male or female. You're not missing out on the young, and you're not missing out on the older. It is not just a matter of having programs that target women. No, we also have programs that target men.
What is interesting for me is bringing men and women together can actually help us improve the behaviors and change the traditional behaviors.
Before this borehole, men would go and dig the traditional well, and women would go and fetch the water.
They're working together, men and women, at the borehole. They're taking responsibility to make sure that the borehole is clean and that there is no source of contamination.
I am very happy to be alone without men in the women's groups. We like to be alone because we women, the way we do things is quite different from the men. So when we are mixed together, men might dominate the groups.
I am very happy I am in the school. I didn't know how to transplant or how to grow vegetables.
It is women who are very careful about taking care of the family. So when they are taught, given this skill, and they go and implement it, they will provide enough food for the family. So the food security will improve.
But if we are to balance the gender, the same feeling that the boy is having, and this is the same feeling the girl is feeling. If the boy is coming to school, the girl as well is to come to school. If they are to be promoted to the other class, they should as well be promoted to the other class.
Our strategy is gender mainstreaming, and then the goal is to eventually reach gender equality.
And that's why it is important in terms of, in the context of the humanitarian setting, that actually people should understand the real concept of gender.
So even if we're creating a gender equity project that is targeting young girls, we also have to look at that project within the context of the greater community. And how does it affect boys in the community? How does it affect men?
I've seen in the past year the growing number of boys on the streets, and I think that's very difficult for me as a teacher, for me as just a person, to see those boys every day on the streets and not being able to do anything.
We are twins. We need to be taken back to Khartoum to be with our mother.
The police officer told me that the mother is in Khartoum, and they were brought here by the uncle, and the father also came, but father is irresponsible. He is not able to feed these children at home, and that was why children did not stay with them at home.
One of the reasons I come here is to save my life. In the markets, if you steal, you will be beaten. The other reason I come here is to learn to read and write. So if we stay here, we will get food and not be beaten by the police.
What GenCap does is to send in really qualified, very dynamic advisors who have loads of experience in these contexts and help to make sure that our programming is as good as it can be.
So you have more videos from, from GenGap. So I recommend you see more videos. And sorry, yeah. I have a question from this video. What action have you seen interesting in this video? Because there are some particular action very interesting to improve in terms of quality in humanitarian action. What do you think about that?
So the things we thought from would be interesting about this video.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, perhaps the way to, because I think everyone, often people think, when they think about gender issues, they just think about women, usually. And that's the prevailing opinion or prevailing, position on that. But obviously with this, it's like a more, with the you know, identifying the need for a school for homeless boys and realizing that gender issues, and also like if you work on a project with women, you kind of need to have a reciprocal project working with men also, like, and also the impact that's a gendered, so the impact that a project that's very gender segregated can have on a community. So like if you do one project so in South Sudan, like one project working with women, you really need to be aware perhaps of the impact on the wider community that project will have, and specifically in the impact in terms of relationships with men and familial, and that's what I think.
Yeah, for me this is the most important thing in the video, no? That we need to include men in our projects, and if we want to implement gender perspective equality in the community, no? Okay, so because of that, I put it this image, this photo. What do you think about that? What do you think? I have this picture for you. What do you think about that? For you?
Diversity.
The diversity, yes, of course. Yeah, gender is not. Yeah, Alejandro?
No, I just wanted to say that this is like with people. It's like if you take a look everywhere, it's exactly like the composition of the population. So it's not only men or only women. It's how different we are.
Yeah, yeah. As Rosalind said before, it's true. Gender is not referred to women exclusively. Gender is not referred to sex. Gender is more complex. No, gender is a personality. Gender is identity. Gender is, of course, sex. But gender is a social construction. Gender is a behavior. So we need to understand this, no? Because, for example, gender roles and stereotypes, like behaviors, are assigned by society according to the sex. So this allocation in society can legitimate power in men and subordination in women. No? So we need to understand that the complexity of gender, in terms to, we need to analyze constant, no? That this term for understand that gender is. We need to understand that the important roles, stereotypes, and how they determine men and women. No, so this is just two examples, like stereotypes. For example, men thinks women shouldn't be security guard. So these two examples, but you have more in the internet. So yes, the question is that we need to know that this kind of roles and stereotypes, because of, for example, of this problem, no, that private and public spheres, no. For example, that the differentiation between the public and private sphere is an example to be taken account in our project, no, because normally women are still relegated at home and to the reproductive sphere, but not men, no? This is an example from the video, no? So the consequences of inequality can become very serious, and we need to change this kind of inequality, no? Yeah.
Maha, there was a question. David raised the hand.
Yeah.
Yes. For example, in Uganda, we do rainwater harvesting, and women are more seen as the persons who have to walk miles and miles and miles with jerrycans to go and get the water.
Yeah.
And we introduced rainwater harvesting to schools and even in certain remote villages. But what we did in order to sustain that the women are not used in any other type of job, because now it's saving them time to go to and fetch the water, and we funded breakfast for girls to go to schools. So they go to school and they get the free breakfast for a number of months, so that the girls would start experiencing the schools. Because unfortunately, women or girls in Africa don't fight for their rights because they lack education. And we targeted education in order to get the girls to school, the experience the way that they learn, and then they can go back home and sort of fight for their rights and continue going to school and benefit from the education.
Yeah, thank you, David. Yes, is that in this slide, some action to improve change and social awareness. Yes, is the second point, no? Generating education to support the organization, but also to support women to empower, no? Empower women, empower girls. So yeah, maybe we need to create new policies in terms of gender to can we improve the women and girls, like David said, and yes, but it's I think, do you have more experience about, or in terms of the private and public sphere, how can you work in this question? Because it's very complicated, because there are a lot of men that not understand that they need to work in, for example, private spheres, no? So I don't know if you have experience in terms of private and public issues, but I think it's a important question to take in account in our project. Did you something about that, or maybe not? No.
With the sample, what is the name of him? Sorry,
David.
David? No, David. Yes. Okay. It's important to the good practice in the project that you are talking. Okay, generate, improve the access to girls, no, to the school, and to continue and to empower girls and women. But it is important because sometimes it's important in humanitarian projects to generate the equal access or equal opportunities to men and women, and sometimes we don't see different needs in the projects. For example, in a disaster, it's very common that women stay at home, take care the children, or care the people with disabilities, and sometimes we, in some intervention, we don't know the different needs of them, no? And sometimes, for example, we don't have account the different needs. And okay, we do our projects, and we promote the participation of the community, and we see that women aren't there because they are at home, they are care the children, and sometimes we are trying to improve and to improve the life of the community, but we don't have we don't see the women in the community, and okay, we don't question this kind of practice, no? And sometimes it's very important question why women are the people that are in home, or why men are in the political situation or in the participation space in the community. But in humanitarian projects, it's very important that sometimes you can transform the situation with the projects, but maybe sometimes you can't do it because it's very difficult, no? Or if you have a long period project, you can establish some politics or some actions that transform the reality. For example, to be awareness with the men, to introduce them in the reproductive work. It is important. For example, in Philippines, with the in Philippines, ¿cómo se llama? Cuando fue lo del lo del agua, no sé cómo se llama. I don't know. Okay. Tsunami, sorry. I'm a bit. With the tsunami, for example, a lot of people that died in the tsunami were women. What do you know why?
No.
Why? Why
Because
women?
They was at home, or maybe
Because women didn't know swimming. Because women didn't swimming, and when the water came to their house, they moved there because they didn't swimming, because women was in their homes, and men were fishing, and men, okay, they know swimming, and in this crisis, when the humanitarian agencies start to work at homes in the communities, they saw that they can to start to work with men to learn to cook, to care the children, to care the babies, because men don't know to cook or to take care, and women were murdered. And they have to change, because they trying to, okay, the problem here is that the men that never do it have to do, because we don't we are doing our politics or actions, we are doing a mistake because they need it. I explain a bit more with that.
Yeah, this is a good example. Thanks, Maria. Yeah, I don't know if you have more experience, but I think we need to take into account the private and, for example, a public sphere in our project to detect needs and discrimination also, because this is a discrimination also. So yeah, so the other question that I think Alejandro said before, the important, when we are talking about women, gender, we need to talking about human rights also, because gender is human right, you know? So we are going to see a little video. It's almost two minutes from UN Women.
Globally, 1 in 3 women and girls worldwide have experienced physical or sexual violence during their lifetime. less than 40% of them seek help of any sort. And of these, only 10% seek support from police. And of all women who were victims of homicide worldwide in 2012, 50% were killed by intimate partners or family members. This situation cannot be overlooked. And although progress has been made, the end of violence against women and girls is far from today's reality. UN Women is committed to this cause and works with governments, national actors, women's organizations, and the civil society to end violence against all women and girls. The international community recently agreed that ending violence against women and girls is an important target for a sustainable future and a crucial matter to achieve the SDGs. During this process, we must make sure that we reach the lost woman. By its presence in more than 85 countries on all world regions, UN Women actively contributes to making this possible. We support countries in many ways, including adopting, implementing and evaluating comprehensive laws and policies, addressing the root causes of violence through prevention strategies and working with communities to change the social norms, ensuring that essential services and support are accessible to all survivors, and collecting data and conducting analysis to fully understand the nature and extent of the problem. UN Women envisions a world where all women and girls are equal and empowered members of society, free of all forms of discrimination and violence by 2030. But let's not wait until then. Let's act now. We need your help and commitment to make sure that we reach the last woman. Together we can make it happen. If not now, when? If not you, who?
Yeah, so this is an example from UN Women. I don't know if you know SDGs, Social Development Goal, but I recommend you that learn about that. Specifically, the 5 goals is in terms of the gender. How can we improve gender issues in all policies? If you don't know that, I recommend you, but I think that you know that. Yeah, so violence against women is one of the violations in terms of human rights. This is the 4 essential instruments, international instruments to observation, to promote, to study, protection, violence against women. In the agenda, you will have more information about that. Here I put it that the link. So if you want to know more about these instruments, you can find more information in each link. So a brief information, because we don't have a lot of time. So the Cairo conferences, for example, was born in 1943. Was a programmation that established lines of action for development in some situations, like, for example, what happened in terms of the poor or health, to support, to improve women in different areas from development. Convention Belém do Pará was born in 1945. Is an Inter-American Convention to prevent, punish, and eradicate violence against women, and also defines violence, establishing the right of women to live a life free from violence, and highlight violence as a violation of human rights and fundamental freedoms. It's just a brief explication. And CEDAW is a convention on the elimination of all forms of discrimination against women. Was born in 1946, and this is a special instrument because it's the body of independent expert. Now there are 23 experts into the committee. Is the first instrument to refer specifically to human rights and equal rights of men and women. Also talk about some discrimination like distinction, exclusion, restriction based on sex, and in the political, economy, social, cultural sphere, but they work very well in terms of the sexual and reproductive rights violation, like for example abortion. So I recommend you see that, because for me it's a good and important instrument. And finally, the resolution 2025 is in terms of peace and security, is a commitment to women's leadership for peace, security, and they involve all actors in negotiation and implement peace agreements to adopt a gender perspective, specifically in terms of conflict and post-conflict situations. So there are 4 international instruments that for us it's very useful to work in terms of inequality and of course in terms of the human rights. So we are recommend you that maybe it's important to take and to take information about these instruments. Yeah.
And for example, for Africa, there are another instrument is the Maputo Convention, and okay, this is a specific ideas and information, but the important here is that the violence is a problem in all the societies, and specific in humanitarian crisis, violence grow up. And it's important if we want to be a good project or to have impact in our project, identify violence and identify this kind, because violence against women limits the participation of women in all the projects, in all the things, in the political process or economical projects, and it's important to identify. And this kind of instruments are important to know and to give support to the communities to know this kind of convention, because they are legal instruments, and a lot of countries are signed this instrument, and it's an international advocacy instrument.
So, do you know or do you hear about these instruments? It's new for you? Raise hand if you know that this instrument. Okay, so the rest of the people need to know that.
So it's great we have our guide coming up.
Okay. Yeah, in terms of the youth volunteers, gender perspective into the youth volunteers, so why we need to know about that, no? So empower women and girls, women as agents of social change. But I think that in this slide, the most important thing is know about gender mainstreaming. So gender mainstreaming is a tool to, in order to develop a society based on equal opportunities. And gender mainstreaming was established, it has the internationally agreed strategy for governments. So it's a mechanism, it's a tool to promote gender equality in all processes. Well, this is a sentence from UNDP, very important for us. If gender dimension is not introduced into development, it endangers the development itself, and if a strategy to reduce poverty do not empower women, will not benefit the whole society. So for us, we need to know these tools, and we need to implement that gender mainstreaming has a strategy, no? to design, implementation, mentoring, and evaluation. So in all processes to benefit equality and, of course, eradicate or eliminate inequality issues. This is a sentence from ECOSOC, United Nations Economic and Social Council. You have more information into this ECOSOC. And how can you contribute when you are implementing this gender perspective? For us, it's very important to know that you need to understand that the important to identify social relation, like, for example, race, class, age, status, roles, disability, culture. So for implementing the gender perspective, we need to know that. It's very important to previously identify this kind of discrimination, because if we don't know what discrimination are, it's very difficult to implement gender perspective in its issues, no? So yes, it's very crucial for improving issues of inequality in humanitarian action and also in our volunteer, and because we need to promote greater gender equality in the development processes, in all processes.
With this information, it's important because it's not the same be a woman in an urban, for example, in an urban context, or be a woman in a rural or indigenous women, because being indigenous, they have two things to discrimination: women and indigenous, because they are living in a determined situation and have different contexts. But if I am a woman in a city, it's different to be in a rural situation, and because my needs are different, my access to rights are different, and these kind of things, the gender cross with other things, the status, the rules, the social class, the disabilities. It is important because we don't have a specific action at the same action in different contexts. We need to analyze the context, now the situation, difference and inequalities.
Thank you. Lucia also wanted to take the floor. Happy to.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now yes.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I had some problems with my computer, so I'm connected by my cell phone. So if it's working. I just wanted to say that for me, it's important to know about gender issue also because many of our volunteers are women. So they go to work in a context where gender issue is very important, and sometimes it's hard for them to work with men or either with women in this context, because they work with women that have a totally different idea of what a woman can do. And so when they face a girl that is volunteering, maybe she's the same age and she has no kids, she is educated, she's traveling alone, is a very big difference and a very big challenge. And it's very important for our volunteers. We actually, as Gondwana, with my organization, I think we don't speak enough about these issues, but it would be very important.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Lucia. Yes, it's important because also, like this slide, no. So if we take in account this kind of factors, we can identify some issues, like, for example, differences, inequality, or limitation, or such. So yes, we need be the change. And I know that maybe we can now, let's go to the break, because I think
We need a quick break.
Yeah, quick break,
And
yes.
some coffee break.
And after we can continue to debate.
A fast coffee.
All right, so let's agree. Let's make it 7 minutes. Yeah, see you.
7.
7 minutes from now on. So yeah, 45. See you there. Quarter to 12.
No. So this is the second important part, to understand or to learn about how can we introduce gender perspective with some practical example. So for understand this part, we are gonna do this kind of how can introduce gender perspective in 3 levels: organizational level, and volunteer cycle, and finally volunteer. No. Volunteer cycle management, sorry, and volunteer. So in the first part, organization, we put these 6 points to define some objectives that must be integrated in this part: visibility, autonomy, and so these 6 points. The first point is in terms of the visibility and communication. Sorry, mistake. To consider whether women's visibility is to take in account in projects development, and whether it's to support men and women to promote equality within the organization. So you have more information in the guide, so don't worry for that. But just to example, you have, for example, the important action to disaggregate data in the diagnosis, and one measure to get this kind of action. For example, detect needs of men and women are taken into account. This is the second point is in terms of autonomy and independence. How can we introduce autonomy and independence in our organization? It is taking into account that power and decision making within the organization falls on both men and women. For example, one action is create spaces for decision making and working in groups that help to implement equality goals. And one of measures is empowerment when deciding on resources and projects to be used within the organization. This is, I want to say you that this is just options action and options measures, but not obligation. That is just to help you, that if you want to implement or improve gender equality in your organization, you can get this kind of action and, of course, some measures. No. If you have some question, please raise your hands for that. The first point is participation and training. Participation spaces are created to address issues that affect the organization in terms of equality as well as training. For example, one action that we said before we did discussion before are technical training of staff on gender issues. That is the action, and the measure maybe could be establish a balanced relationship between the participation of men and women. So in terms to improve the training in on staff of board. The fourth point is network and teamwork. Work spaces are created to improve relationships and inclusion, as well as spaces of coexistence to solve discriminatory problems. So, for example, one important action for us that could be establish ongoing relationship with the other women's organization to improve inclusive policies. One measure could be to be aware of the reflection that are being made on the organized groups that affect women. I don't know if maybe could you or did you implement this action that establish relation and establish alliance in other women organizations to improve their policies in host country. But for us, it's very important to work in this way. I don't know what do you think about that, or I don't know if you are implementing now this action or some measures that they are here. This is a question. Do you implement relationship with other women organizations to improve inclusive policies, for example?
Rocio, go ahead.
Rocio.
We cannot hear you. No.
Maybe now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That in the university there is an office that works equality in the university, and also there is another association of women, not only women, okay, but a feminist association that try to work this issue in the university, and we try to have with them like a couple of meetings to implement actions with them. So that's it, what we try to do.
I want to ask you.
I'm sorry.
No, I want to ask you because Rocio, you say that not women organization, but a feminist organization. So I want to ask you to, not you, say all people, what do you think about in terms of feminist or gender and or women organization? Do you think that is the same or not? Because I think it's a good question. It's a good thing to reflect about that. In terms of, yeah.
And like we were arguing about this with our colleagues a few days ago, because there is a call for projects that only can ask for that, only can participate associations formed only by women to fight for women's rights, no? And we are not agree about that, because we think that men can also fight for women's rights in the same position. For me, it's not this. I don't know. Maybe yes, because for me, feminist is equality, feminism. But I don't know. Some people think that feminism is the contrary of masculinism. I don't know how to say it in English.
No, I mean, I agree. I mean, I agree with what you're saying. Like, feminism is about equality. It's not about the elevation of women over men.
And as well, you can have feminist organizations that are men-led. So it doesn't have, like, if using a gender approach, or if they call themselves feminists, and it's still like we're fighting for equality. So it shouldn't be only like gender specific.
And as we started the discussion, no, it's all about working together, no, not just women and not just girls and so on, but just all together and from all ages and so on. Mm-hmm.
But it's important that sometimes it is necessary work only with women, no, because they have inequality situation. And if we have to work with men and women at the same level, we need to empower women and stay at the same level. If we work with men, that men are here and women are here, it's difficult to generate equality, because we don't have the same point of start. And by this reason, sometimes it's important to identify and to prioritize women organization or a feminist organization to work only with women and to empower to generate the same point of start. If we don't do it, sometimes we generate inequalities and we generate negative impacts in our projects. And for this reason, sometimes people say, okay, gender is work with women, not. But it's important work with women, because if we don't work with women and start and put in the same point of start, it's difficult change, it's difficult transform inequalities. Do you agree?
Yeah. So,
do you agree or not?
Yes, I think we are agree.
Yeah, there are thumbs up.
Yeah.
Agreeing with you.
It's just to know that the difference about feminist or women's organization, and yes, because for example, there are a lot of projects that it's necessary to put just a women organization, but not feminist, no? So yes, it's just to question to reflect that now or after. So,
but feminist, okay, feminist is feminist. The meaning of feminist is equality between women and men. It's not the power of women, no. It's generate a society with the same rights for women and men. And I think that it's an option, and I think that it needs the organization needs to be a reflection about this. Sometimes we confuse, feminist is the power for women. No, it's to generate the society that women have the same opportunities that now we don't have.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. So the five point is about economy transparencies. Work is done so that the organization does not exist on the basis of gender. So this is the explanation. And one actions to take in account, for example, the first point is to avoid punishing women economically by having to deal with household issues. And one of the measures maybe could be important to empowerment to assume responsibility and support initiative to improve employment in women. It's like a conciliation. So yeah, so this is some action that you can get to improve in your organization in terms of the quality. It's the same that the sixth point, follow-up of the incorporation of gender approach, is for the organization to improve in terms of equality, but in policies. One action maybe could be interesting to create a working group to evaluate and measure the impact of gender policies in your organization. So it's like create a council that this kind of council can to monitoring, can evaluate that the quality policies in the organization, for example, avoid any plan or regulation that promote this kind of equality. Oh, I don't know, what do you think about that? If you have this kind of group or this kind of council in your organization that can help you in terms of the promote equality policies in your organization. But it's new. I think it's new, but we can start in this kind of action. Yeah. Question about that? The second part is about the volunteer management cycle. I know you know that this cycle because the last webinar you are working in this kind of cycle. So we are establishing that some measures to relate in this definition. So you have, for example, action. Sorry. So you have, for example, the definition of tags and profile is one action into the identification of tags, and one measure that we can get, for example, is training on equality for responsible person, or include neutral and non-sexist languages into the profile and task. In the second part is about the identification and selection of volunteers. You have in this part 5 actions that you can do, and in each action, for example, in review of 5 application, maybe one of the measures could be consider establishing or interview, for example, evaluate the ability to listen and sensitivity to issues of social inequality. So this is one measure. You have more in the guide. So again, it's not an obligation, but just an option that you can introduce in your organization to implement the quality. And the first point is preparing. For example, in candidate selection, maybe you can take a stock of the selected people, taking into account the parity in the contracting, for example. If you have question or doubts about that, tell us. In this part, logistic aspect, you have some action and some measures. For example, in the second action, providing allowance and accommodation, maybe could be interesting inform about accommodation condition. It depends. For example, if you are a women volunteer to go to the field mission, we need to take in account some question about the accommodation and condition, because it's different that if it's women or if it's a man, no? So yes. And deployment is the last, I think it's the point number 5. You have one action in terms, for example, sign deployment contract, establishing all terms. And in this action, you have an important measure, like introduce a section where it appears that before any sex behavior, the volunteers will be penalized. This is just, I want to show you some information, but for me it's very important we can continue because we don't have more time, and after we can debate about that in the cases. Because of that, now I'm going a little fast.
Just maybe one note, Mache, if I may. Two things actually, because there are 2 very important slides. No, in case of the preparation or training, if we take it on our grant of EU8 volunteers, right? So the training in gender, or with gender sensitivity. Yes, let's put it this way. Yesterday we had quite a discussion also in the session about the training part. Like, how is it from the ECO and agency? If you remember, there is the first training provided by ECO, right, centrally, and then you have the briefing induction sessions. So we were checking, for example, when it comes to gender issues, is it included or not in the curriculum of the mandatory sessions for all the candidate volunteers? It is, although it is not in, as we were discussing, no, it's not as a separate module. It is within the module on the intercultural awareness. But then, where we have more space, let's say, and it's our role, it's the induction for volunteers before their deployment. And the content of the briefing of the induction program, it depends on us. So this is also, again, like a space where we can actually put the topic on the agenda again, right? Apart of giving maybe more feedback to the commission, like, hey, you should include more in your centrally governed training about the gender issues. But this is also our role to put it in briefing. If we, as an organization, consider that this is our priority, it is on our agenda. I don't know if other organizations, you have some experiences, if you talk about it, like, of course, for the preparation of the volunteers we were discussing, no, it's not the same to send volunteer female or male volunteer to different contexts. It will vary how we prepare the volunteer for their deployment, no? But this for me was very important to highlight that this is crucial here, and the same in the logistics, no? Yesterday, I know today we don't have too much time. Yesterday we had quite a longer discussion on this, no? That very often we tend to logistics, no, only technical issue, but no, this is also like a crucial sphere where we have to take into account all the needs. Thank you.
Yeah, this is the concept of the gender mainstreaming. So we need to include gender in all issues, also in the logistic aspects and deployment. No, so this is the sense of the gender mainstreaming. No? Finally, monitoring and evaluation. So in the cycle you have 4 action. For us, it's important to the last action, that certificate upon the completion of the mission that include the volunteer task and contribution, including impacts from the gender perspective. So, for example, one mission maybe could be interesting to offer to volunteers a letter of recognition in which both parties sing for the work done. So, in terms of the quality, of course, but maybe it's a good action, good measures to visibility that the importance of the including gender perspective in the in our project, no, and motivate our organization in these issues also, no. Finally, in the last point is in terms of the communication and awareness. For example, the first point action is promote social recognition activities for the volunteers. So, for example, one of measures could be interesting that documents can be used as online resources, especially in gender issues, and also more measures. Again, you will be a lot of information in these points in the guide, so don't worry about that. And
in this case,
yeah,
in communication, sometimes we generate photos or images always with women in the inside of homes, or with water, or with children, and men doing a politic work, no, or speaking in a meeting, and this kind of images. It's important to create a change, because when we see an images, we generate the difference between roles of women and men, and if we can visualize and images with women participation in meetings or doing different jobs, it's important. It's important because if we don't do it, we don't question this kind of rules. It's not a problem, but sometimes if we see a man with a baby, it's important to the community, it's important to the people to generate, okay, it's a change in the community, of the men can do it, no, or men or women that are participating in an important meeting, and the communication and the awareness of organization need to generate this kind of reflection.
Yeah, and yes, Kasia say that important is that also to break the stereotypes, no?
Yes.
Is you have, for example, one case like in Peru that SIDA is a organization support of women organization, but for example, they involve in women in decision making and leadership at community and local political level also. The election of women as municipal councillors increased ability of women organizations to negotiate with local governments and other institutions, responsiveness of those institutions to women's demand, and evidence of men supporting this change in women projects, like Maria said now. Yes, that's important to include men in this in the public spheres. No, that you remember. I am. The last slide. So yes, we need to create ways to empower women and including also that men. No? Finally, the last point is about aid volunteers. We are gonna do this kind of phases, exactly 4 phases, and in each cases we are designing some actions to take in account when implement gender issues in the field mission. It's action to give our volunteers. So for example, in the first phase is about assessment, and you have different action in this phase. For example, identify spaces and opportunities to work on empowerment workshop. I think one note, but this action is not is of course give to our volunteers, but I think that our volunteers needs to work in the host country, in women organization from host country, because we need to generate alliance and generate this kind of relationship, because there aren't sense that if our volunteers design, for example, the activities by self, no? So we need to create this kind of alliance also to design and activities, no? For example, one of action maybe could be interesting. The second action is establish the possibility of creating daycare for women to participate. So we need to identify needs, and we need to identify the daily, no, from women, to include women in the different activities, and promote the participation of women in our activities. No? So the first point is in terms of implementation and monitoring. Here maybe could be interesting, for example, the action number 4, generate a space for reflection and action in coordination with field offices and volunteers. So it's very important to we need the reflection constant, no, in if our activities or our projects are being good or maybe not. So yes, and also the evaluation, no, it's important to analyze, for example, women and men who have participated in the workshops and activities. And also I think in this point we need to say our volunteers that we need a feedback, no, in terms of evaluation, and in terms to know that impact in gender issues from our project. This is one example, one case. How can volunteers improve equality in the field? Case 1 is about routine assessment of capacity. It's a case from refugees in Bangladesh to develop a simple yet effective practice assessment capacity. So the action was, it start assessment template do not only ask affected population to describe where the most acute need lie for each subject, they also inquired what the communities or individuals are doing to address the problem and what further solution they would suggest. No? I recommend you, because I don't know if you know that the gender gender agent market toolkit, but I recommend you because it's a good guide. It's a good guide. It's a good toolkit to with different activities and with different different cases to know about that and to implement in our organization and also with the volunteers.
Marta, just one thing, like, because, and what was the role of volunteers in that case? They were the one. What was the role of volunteers in that case? Because you were like, they were doing the assessment. They were the ones, or
don't understand, Kasia.
No. I mean, like, because we were talking about now how volunteers can improve equality in the field. So, and in this case, so I was just wondering, I was just curious whether there were volunteers who were, because if we are talking about this assessment, no, and so on. So, what was the, you know, the role of the volunteers in this particular case?
I think, for example, in this particular case, maybe you need to identify, because is in the refugee camps, so the needs women and men is very different. So, for example, one action into the assessment maybe could be interesting to define or identify needs women and men. I don't know if
No, I understand the action. You know, like I was just wondering. I understand the action from the gender perspective and so on, like the sensitivity and so on. I was just wondering what was the role of volunteers in this particular action. You know, like if this was, or is it something that volunteers could do in the future?
Yes, no, I think it's the volunteers could do in the future, but I don't know.
It's okay. No.
That's an example. So. Yeah, I think that this
to help, the organization to do it.
Yeah, no, I think that maybe could help the organization in the field.
Yeah, okay, it's okay. I was just wondering whether in that particular case study there was a role of volunteers who were performing the particular action. But yeah, I understand.
No,
Thank you.
So in terms of the conflict and post-conflict consideration, maybe we are going to do, let's say, a little video about conflict and post-conflict. Yes, we don't have more time, I know. Yeah, and like let's say a little video, 2 minutes, and after that we can do 2 cases if you want, because I think it's very important to know that the Okay. So yeah, this is a video from young women in terms of conflict and post-conflict situation. But I don't know, Kasia, maybe we can continue to the cases because we have just 3 minutes, 4 minutes.
Of course, up to you, Maje.
Okay.
We will disseminate the presentation, and there's more information in the guidelines. So
Yeah.
how you feel it's better.
Okay, so we can start. We need to make 2 groups, maybe.
I will do it as always.
Yeah.
I will send you. But maybe explain the cases, no?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The group 1 with what the name is? Kasia, we are.
Yeah, but
okay. I will divide you into two groups, right? Group 1, it will be with if it's okay for you, Maria, to join this group. So the first case, and you see, I will assign you. It will be like automatically the window will pop out, and you will get to the room specially created. So so don't worry. So in this group we'll have Cayetana, Lucia, David, Rocio, and David and David from Croatia. And the other group will be with Maje. And yeah. All right. So
can you see the case number 1?
It's a little bit not that shape, but also these are the cases. I will send it maybe once again. I send it to you on the platform.
Okay, perfect.
I will just send it to you again so we make sure that everybody has it. But yeah, you can explain.
Okay, so the first case is about volunteers. So what is you have this table that explain that what we do. For example, what is the issues, the principal issues in the case? So the question is analyze the following case on humanitarian aid situation, including gender perspective. The objective or the goal is starting from the case that after I explain it, that is proposed, increase the capacity to integrate development and humanitarian programs and promote women's participation in risk reduction, redress, and resilience. So this is the goal, and how can we do that? So first, read the case. After, analyze capabilities and needs with gender perspective, remember? And think in some action that include gender perspective, and of course choose a group representative to present after the exercise the results or discussion. And if you need the help or you need the support, you can find relevant information in the webinar presentation in theory, of course, but in particular consult the slides from 51 and 63. So this is the case study. It's a real case. You have a situation. It's the case of from Typhoon Haiyan in November. So this is the case, and yes, you have the link. In this link, you have more information about the study. After that, you have key points. 2 key points to consider. That is not the case, but maybe this point can help you. And finally, yeah, let's do it now. So you have this table. So you need to complete the table in, for example, the goal is analyze the needs in the face of the situation. So you need to include in this table the needs of the situation. And for example, I put you an example to protect the health of pregnant women. So this is the one analyze. And for example, capabilities in situation, I put you an example, like for example, given the situation of the roles of caregivers, generate a group of women with knowledge of childbirth to guide and help pregnant. Maybe could be another analysis in terms of capabilities. and some actions. For example, I put this action: support financial aid is provided for the creation and infrastructures such as bathroom and dressing rooms. This is one of actions. So you need to think about more analysis and actions. And oh yeah, it's okay. This case, it's okay. So this is one case. And the other case, sorry. The other case, no, you can see, no?
No, not yet.
Now, okay. The other case is about we need to reflect or to debate in terms of volunteer management cycle, no? So, for example, what is the issue in these cases? So we need to based on the questionnaire will be analyzed the diagnosis that I show you before, and propose action measures to work on the lack of involvement of NGOs and detect needs in equality issues. The goal in the case is make an analysis of the answer to the questionnaire and create positive action for the improvement of the organization and technical team. I don't know if we need to reflect about the actions to improve the technical team, or maybe we can discuss about if, for example, we have a plan, so how can we implement this plan, no? Because if you remember the last problem from, I don't remember, Rocía maybe was? So maybe we can discuss about the problem and how can we do, so go to the first slides of the webinar presentation and take stock of the situation. Maybe we can do a brainstorming about the problem in our organization. And after that, analyze and describe action that can help to improve the management of volunteering from the quality point of view. No? Of course, again, choose a group representative to explain the discussion. And we can find some help or relevant information in the old webinar, of course, but in particular, slides from 8 till 13 and 31 till 50. So the first activity is make a brainstorming. You have different questions that maybe can support the brainstorming or can help our brainstorming. And after brainstorming, we must do this exercise, no? For example, I make an example. What and for what can we do? So the objective is improve the training of volunteers in gender, which corresponds to the preparing phases. And who is responsible for taking an action? So, for example, the person in charge of the action will be in charge of implementing and supervising the project and the management of volunteers. If the person who is in charge of it could not perform the action, you will see the possibility of hiring an expert, no? For example, or what resources do you need? So I will need a responsible person to provide training on gender equality, or maybe we need some material and guides to work and volunteer management from equality. So this is some example. And the time, it's important to put the time you may need to get it going. And I put it this example, training of 4 hours monthly or quarterly according to the needs of the needs detecting, no? So we need to make again the same table, but in other with other action and with other things. And you have points that can help you, for example, capacity or financial policy training. So we need to discuss about that. And some examples maybe can help us to bring volunteer management. Yes, I
All
think
right, let's put hands into the work. Great. Okay, so as usual, right? There is nothing new here. So there will be a window that will pop out that you have to accept so that you are taken to the breakout session. And it should appear in less than a minute.